Still an East Coast boy, though I've lived here 22 years.
No problem. No, it's good to talk with you.
Sorry, my gosh. Okay, live in 10 seconds. Oh, we're live now. Oh, my goodness. Hi. Well, welcome to a live webcast that I thought was I forgot was on Eastern time because I live in Central. I'm Rudy Maxa. My guest is Ted Rossman. He's an executive with creditcards.com, and we're going to talk a little bit today about how to think about credit cards these days, particularly with interest rates rising very quickly on unpaid balances because they're pegged to the Fed rate. Those what you pay on interest rates are determined by what the Fed sets its rate for banks to borrow money from. And with all the changes in travel, and there are new credit cards, I'm going to talk about that. Sorry for the stumbling beginning. I didn't know we were live. Anyway, I'm Rudy Maxa. I'm a travel journalist. Ted is the expert for the next 20 minutes or so. Ted, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
We've now established the fact you're on Eastern time and I'm on Central. And even though I live here in Central time for 22 years, I still often think Eastern time. But here we are. All right. First of all, I'm probably stating the obvious, but maybe you can underline it. The money on an unpaid balance, maybe you were paying 11, 12, 13% more, 13% a month on any unpaid balances on your credit card. If so, it might be, I don't know what, I haven't looked, like 17% or something?
That's exactly right. Yeah, the national average, according to our bank rate data, is 17.13%. Many people, though, are paying 20, even 25, 30% in some cases. Any good credit card reward strategy starts with paying in full. You absolutely have to avoid these high interest rates to make these cashback programs or airline miles or hotel points work for you. Now, if you have debt, no shame. A lot of people do. Maybe get a 0% balance transfer card or do whatever you can to prioritize that interest rate. Take on a side hustle, sell stuff you don't need, pay down that debt, and then later on you can chase rewards. That's the fun part of the credit card world.
Yeah, because at 20% or 25% interest, you can borrow that from the mafia guy down the street, and not have to bother with a postage stamp to pay him off every week. I should state we're live right now on Monday, July 18th at 12:19 Eastern time. So the information we're giving you is as current and as accurate as we know it can be at this time. But this conversation with Ted will remain on both Facebook and YouTube in perpetuity, Ted. I've often wondered what happens when I die. I mean, I guess those things just stay up there forever. But keep in mind, if you're watching this beyond July 18th, that some things could change. I mean, interest rates are, even as we speak, Fed's supposed to raise them by 0.75% any day now, which is going to put them up even higher, right? Our credit card fees.
It's pretty much a direct pass-through from the Fed. Yeah. So when the Card Act went into effect, that was part of the Dodd-Frank law back in 2010. Basically, all credit card companies tied in with the prime rate, which is usually 3 percentage points higher than the federal funds rate. So banks lend to each other at that rate. Banks' best customers get the prime rate, and then card issuers tack a margin on top of that. So in other words, the government made it harder for banks to raise rates on existing balances unless they tie in with an underlying index. So that's what almost all of them did. So when the Fed moves, your credit card moves. That's different from other forms of debt. Like if you have a fixed rate mortgage, well, then that's fixed. You're insulated from these rate hikes. Most car loans tend to be fixed interest rates. But when we talk about the Fed and rates and consumers, credit cards have to go to the top of the list because almost all of them are variable. The rates are high to begin with, and unfortunately, they're moving higher.
Right. They're going up at least, 0.75% this week. The Fed rate's going up, they say. The Wall Street Journal says. Could be as much as 1%, probably 0.75%. Okay. Travelers. Folks who travel we got to probably say more than 2 or 3 times a year. What kind of basic credit cards should they have in their wallet for travel purposes?
I'm a big believer in the transferable points cards because it's good to keep your options open. We talk about diversification with our investments. I think your frequent flyer miles and hotel points should be the same way in most cases. Now, an exception would be if you are really loyal to a specific airline or a specific hotel chain then maybe it does make sense to double down and get their credit card, because sometimes there are additional perks there, like free checked bags or priority boarding or extra points towards elite status. With a hotel, maybe it's things like late checkout, free breakfast, free nights. That's if you're really loyal. For many people, though, who like to play the field and they fly different airlines, they stay at different hotels, they chase the best deals. And remember, too, not every airline goes everywhere. And yes, they have partners, but still, I like the idea for many people of keeping your options open. So Chase Ultimate Rewards is a great program that several different credit cards participate in, like the Chase Sapphire Preferred and the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Amex has their version of this called Membership Rewards. Not all of their cards earn these points, but many do, like Amex Gold and Amex Platinum. Capital One would be another example. They have the Venture and Venture X. The point here is, by keeping your options open, you're giving yourself a lot of opportunity to transfer to airlines and hotels and kind of mix and match. And you're also guarding against negative changes. Like if a certain airline or hotel changes its program and devalues that currency, so now points, now it's going to take more points or miles to get that free flight or same hotel stay. If you've insulated yourself with that diversification, that's why I like the transferable points cards.
So let me break down a little more simply for folks who might not live in this world. I have too many credit cards, so I know of which you speak. So if you do, for example, I live in a fortress hub for Delta Airlines. I mean, whenever I get in an Uber or a taxi and they say, "What airline you take?" I say, "What airline do you think I'm taking?" Delta? Yeah. There are 80, I don't know how many, but at least 80% of the flights out of my airport are Delta. So I have a Delta card because I don't have to pay a baggage fee, and that can be as much as $50, round trip or more if you're switching cities. And yes, I get more points, more miles if I buy my Delta ticket with a Delta card than I would with another card. But those miles on Delta are only transferable to other airlines in Delta's alliance. I can't put them into my Hyatt hotel account, into my Hertz rental car account, into my Hilton Marriott account, whatever. And what Ted is talking about when he says transferable, if do your homework before you get one of those cards, because the Capital One X card, whatever it's called, the Chase Sapphire or the Chase Sapphire Reserve, they all have different partners. Now, many of them have a common partner. A lot of them probably have Hilton and Marriott, the big hotel chains, but some may have airlines or hotel chains that you stay at more than others. So do your research before you agree to take one of those cards. The point is, those cards allow you to move your points, as opposed to airline-specific miles, into the accounts, into your other frequent guest accounts or any other things that earn awards. So I did it a little more clumsily than Ted would do it, but that's the difference between an airline card, a specific airline card, or a specific hotel company card, because you have limited wiggle room with the points and miles you earn. You do get perks with some of those. So if you stay a lot at Marriott, or you stay a lot at Hilton or Hyatt, or fly a particular airline a lot, consider getting a card associated with that company. But otherwise, get the flexible ones. There's a new card out, or at least it was new to me. I'm sorry. And Ted, we talked about it off air. That is really good for a renter like me. I pay my rent using a credit card, so I get miles and points. But I also pay a $65 a month fee to somebody. I guess it goes, I don't know if it goes to my landlord or the credit card company to use it to pay my rent. But now there's a card that has found a way to get around that, which would save me at $65 a month. What, $650 plus $65 twice more, over $700.
Yes, we're talking about the Bilt Mastercard here. So that's BILT. And
right.
Now it's issued by Wells Fargo. So it started as one of these kind of startup things, and now they've joined forces with Wells Fargo. I think this is a really interesting card for renters and maybe even for others. The headline is the opportunity to earn points on rent without a surcharge. So they started out by partnering with a lot of these big apartment companies like Avalon Bay and Cushman Wakefield and these big commercial property managers. They've actually added the opportunity for anybody to pay rent without a fee. What they'll do is they'll actually mail your landlord a check if you're not in one of these big corporate complexes. And you can earn 1 point per dollar on rent up to 50,000 points per year. And then you also get 3 points per dollar on dining and 2 points per dollar on travel. And what's really interesting about this card also, besides the rent earning opportunities, which is very unique, is that they really have some great transfer partners. American Airlines is one of them, which I think is incredible because American doesn't partner with any other credit cards. They have their own credit cards, but
I didn't know that.
yeah, so that's really interesting. I think that they're really building something unique here. I think that there's the renter audience, but then there's also the travel audience. They just unveiled their own travel portal recently, which is a trend that we've seen many of the big credit card brands do as well, where it's kind of their version of Expedia or Orbitz or Travelocity. And oftentimes you can get bonus points for booking that way. And it's very streamlined when it comes to redeeming your rewards. But in this way, I think Bilt is also creating an aspect that is going toe to toe with a card like Chase Sapphire Preferred, and the opportunity to earn and burn rewards through one of those portals. They have a long, interesting list of partners. Yeah, I think this is very much worth considering, especially for renters.
Do you know, I've only had the card for I haven't even paid a rent with it yet once. I'm about to at the end of this month. And I just love the fact I don't have to pay that $65 fee a month. Do you have to book your travel, your airline ticket through Bilt's new travel portal in order to get credit? Or if I just call American Airlines or any airline and use my Bilt card, will I get the same amount of points?
It's similar to the way Chase and Amex and Capital One and Citi do it, which is that it could be either one. So you could potentially transfer your points to one of their partners, and then it just becomes that currency. So once you've transferred to American, then those Advantage miles are just in your American account, and then you can book that way. That sometimes will be worth more, or you can book it through their portal at a fixed valuation. So if you use points through their own portal, they're each worth 1.25 cents a piece, which is similar to the Chase Sapphire Preferred. So this is where, and this speaks to a broader trend that I think is important to address here, which is complexity. Some people, your head may already be spinning about all these calculations and it's confusing. That's one of the knocks on travel cards. That's why some people like Cashback. But I would say that if you are willing to put in a little work and do the math and jump through a few hoops, that's where these transfer partners can often be worth more. But I think it's important to highlight this hybrid approach. And like the Capital One Venture is another good example. You could almost view that as a 2% cashback card redeemed for travel, or you could try to get more than that. You could try to get 3, 4, 5 cents per point or mile if you get really creative. Some people, like if you know what you're doing, you can get an $8,000 first class airline ticket to Japan, let's say, for 100,000 points. I mean, that would be 8 cents per point or mile. That's where the value is, but it's also more complicated.
I just read one of the most popular travel sites is the Points Guy, thepointsguy.com. And just yesterday, I read an article by one of the Points Guy's writers who was looking for 2 first class tickets to Europe for her and her husband. And she sort of consulted one of the mileage experts there, and they did some fiddling around and found out if she used her airline mile, she'd just gotten a credit card with 100,000. She'd gotten an American Express Platinum card and got 100,000 membership points as a bonus for spending, I think, $6,000 in 3 months, 6 months, one of those. And so she had 100,000 Amex miles points and some other ones, and they transferred them to an airline partner, and she got 2 first-class tickets that would have retailed for her and her husband for $17,000, and they paid about $1,800 in airport taxes and fees for two tickets totaling $18,000, bringing the value per mile, as I recall, and I may be a little imprecise in some of these numbers, but about a value per point to 17 cents a point, which is outrageous and incredible. So people who say, oh, these miles and points are not worth it, they're not worth anything. If you study it, if you work hard enough, and in fact, websites like the Points Guy offer services that if you tell them roughly how many points you have on your Amex card or your Capital card and how many miles you have on Delta or how many miles you have on Air France or American Airlines, they will search for you. You tell them where you want to go and when. They'll search for you and find the most advantageous award cash in. And I think you'll agree, Ted. It's a confusing system that sometimes they can find. Most people go on Delta and look for, how much does Delta want for a business class ticket? But they don't go to Korean Airlines, which accepts Delta miles and asks a lot, 100,000 miles fewer sometimes for the exact same ticket and the exact same flight. But these services, and they'll charge you 130, 140, 150 bucks, but it's worth it if you can save a huge amount of money. I'm sorry, I'm talking like I'm the guest here, but I just read that article yesterday. I was very impressed. But as you say, if you can get 8 cents per mile or point, you're doing very, very well, and you're way ahead of the game. You mentioned Cashback, and I know that's what you like. Talk about that.
That's right. Yeah. So I like Cashback because I'm kind of the suburban dad with 2 young kids, and I travel some, but not as much as a lot of the road warriors among us. And for me, it's meaningful to get cash back on everyday expenses. You could apply the same logic to travel. Like for my example, I get 6% cash back at the grocery store using my Amex Blue Cash Preferred card. That's a nice inflation buster right there when you think about all the cash back that you can earn. I usually get something like $1,500 or $2,000 a year in cash back. The key is that it's on money I would have spent anyway, and you've got to pay in full to avoid interest and make this worth it. So you need to know yourself. You could have a very similar example for travel, and you could gain tons of airline miles, hotel points, transferable travel rewards. You could earn those on your gas, your groceries, your restaurant meals, your utility bills, your rent, all these other things. But you do have to know yourself. So those are some of the key questions I would ask starting out. Number one has to be, can you pay in full and avoid interest? But beyond that, it's things like, do you want cash back? Do you want travel? How much complexity are you willing to take on, both in terms of jumping through hoops for redemptions, but also how many cards do you want? I mean, are you a one card kind of person where you want to just keep it really simple, or do you want to play the game? And I imagine some people, your appetite is growing as you hear about these amazing trips, and like you could do some really cool stuff with credit card rewards. If you really want to make it a game and a hobby, don't get 10 cards all at once, but maybe gradually every few months you add another one, you get the bonus. I mean, that's the way. If you really want to mix and match, some people have great success with that.
I have 25 credit cards. You would have a field day with me. I'm starting to eliminate some, even if they're only $95 a year. I'm thinking, wait a minute, $95 a year. If I can get rid of 10 of those, that's $950. So I've just started clearing house on it, but I have way too many credit. But I rationalize by saying, look, I'm a journalist. I write about this stuff. I have to see what kind of deals this card's giving me, what kind of deals. But really, I can look it up online. I don't need to have it personally to own it. Although I'm certainly more invested and pay more attention when it's a card I have. What credit card did you say you used to get 6 points on every dollar spent for groceries?
That's the Blue Cash Preferred from American Express. Yeah, that's really a great option for families and others that are buying lots of groceries. It's capped at $6,000 a year in spending. So you can get $360 in cash back, and then it's 1% after that. There's a $95 annual fee, but I am a big fan of this card. It also gives 3% cash back on public transit and gas, 6% on streaming, 1% on other things. In that case, the annual fee is well worth it, I think.
Is there a limit for all those, or just for groceries? Is there a limit, or limit
just
for
groceries?
Mm-hmm. Oh, so if you've maxed out your how much on groceries?
$6,000 a year. Then it's 1% after that.
Groceries, you're still getting points for that are worthwhile for gas and for other things, other non-related grocery items.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think this also brings up some broader examples about when is an annual fee worth it? When is it not? A lot of times the annual fee could be worth it. Like in my example about I earn way more cash back at the grocery store than the annual fee. But also just all these calculations about what are your key spending categories? What do you prioritize? This is what makes personal finance so personal, because everybody's situation is a little different. Other key considerations might include fees, like annual fees we touched upon, foreign transaction fees. Hopefully you're going to avoid things like late fees. But there's also a lot of credits that can offset things like annual fees. And more credit cards are offering things like maybe it's Uber credits or
pre-TSA or global entry, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Amex Platinum does this probably more than any other card, where there's a big annual fee, $695 a year, but there's also a ton of credits. There's a $200 airline fee credit. There's a $200 credit on certain hotel stays. You could get a free Walmart Plus membership. You could get money off at Saks. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah,
Do you use this stuff? Is it worth it? It's up to you.
I think they do like $200 or $300 off if you buy something from Dell as well. So you can, and of course, the advantage to opening some of these credit cards is with the American Express Platinum, it's often 100,000 points right off the bat. Now, Ted, by the way, my guest is Ted Rossman. He's with creditcards.com. He knows a whole lot about all this stuff, which is why he's my guest today. We're recording this, or doing it live, but also recording it on Monday, July 18th at 12:37 in the afternoon Eastern time right now. Keep in mind, if you're watching this later on YouTube or Facebook, that credit cards are constantly changing their options, their bonuses. So if you're watching this 1 year later, you might want to check more carefully your credit card, because something we've mentioned might not be true anymore. I was going somewhere with that before I did the warning to viewers here. I was going to talk I'm sorry.
You're talking about like the credits and the annual fee cards.
Well, yeah, we were talking about credits on that. I think that's clear. Go online and pick the card you want, and they'll tell you all the credits, all the bonuses they'll give you. I don't buy Dell computers, so that doesn't help me with the American Platinum card, but you might. What I was going to get to is the upfront points they'll give you to get the card if you spend X amount of dollars in a certain amount of time. That can be pretty meaningful, 100,000 miles. 100,000 membership points on Amex, or 75 or 85,000 with other credit cards. That can be very, very meaningful if you can meet the spending requirements in the time required. True?
It's huge. Yeah. And I think it underscores the importance of shopping around. I think that's another key point, is that the market changes, as you said. And I think every 6 months, every year, we should all be reevaluating these things, because the market changes and we change too. We may be spending differently. But yes, you can get a big pop from a new credit card sign-up bonus. And that could be really, really meaningful. That Amex Platinum bonus, that's probably worth anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000, just that right there. So yes, the annual fee is $695, but yes, there are also credits that offset that. The sign-up bonus alone could pay for, let's say, up to 3 years of the annual fee. I mean, it's a good opportunity, I think. Sometimes it makes sense to work backwards and have a specific trip in mind. Like if you look up an amazing trip that you want to take to Europe or Asia or Hawaii or wherever, and then you figure out, well, how many points or miles could that take? And how could I get those? And then you start to think about like, wow, this credit card could get me there just by signing up, and you meet the minimum spend requirement. Hopefully you pay in full and avoid interest. But yeah, I think two key takeaways from this part would be, one, just how much that sign-up bonus could juice your account. And then two, the fact that everyday activities can lead to amazing trips. I think that's a big misconception, that you have to travel a ton to earn points and miles. Nowadays, it's easier than ever to earn them through credit card sign-up bonuses and just routine credit card spending.
We have a question from Karen, who says, when you get cash back on that American Express card you use for groceries, which is what card? The blue card?
Blue Cash Preferred. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know that card. She asks, does the cash go into your card account or cash right to you in your pocket?
In that case, it's either a statement credit or a bank account deposit, which is pretty common on
your choice
cards.
Your choice?
Your choice, yeah. Sometimes you can, on different cards, you can also redeem for things like gift cards and merchandise. Often that's not the best value. But it is important to note that that Blue Cash Preferred, it really is just a cashback card. You can't do all the airline and hotel transfers that you can do on other American Express cards. There's kind of a church and state separation there. Some cards are pure cashback. Other ones are more travel oriented. And by the way, on those, they may have a cashback option, but it's a lot less lucrative. So that Blue Cash Preferred is cashback, and it's in the form of a statement credit or a bank account deposit.
So that's a new card to me. They've got so many different colored cards, American Express, and I didn't know about that, the blue one. The other card we mentioned, if you tuned in later or didn't get it down, is called Bilt, B-I-L-T, not is the way Bilt spells it. It's issued by Wells Fargo, and that's the one that's very good for renters. If you're getting charged, if you'd like to pay your rent by a credit card, some places don't take it, some places will. But if you're paying a fee to do it, that might be a card you want to look into. Ted, I really thank you for your time. Creditcards.com for more information. Is it cards plural? Credit cards?
Yes, cards plural with an S. Yep.
Cards.com. You can find all kinds of information from Ted and his colleagues. And I thank you for taking time today. And to Karen, well, both Karens and Nancy, yes, we did start late. I'm terribly sorry. That was my fault because I was thinking East Coast time noon and I was getting a haircut. I know people don't believe I need a haircut, but hair does grow a little. And I looked at my watch and Ted wrote me and I said, oh my God, it's almost 11 o'clock Central. I made time zone problems. So don't trust anything I've said about credit cards because I can't even keep time. Hey, Ted, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you all for joining us as well. Hang on, we got one more question here. Sean wants to know, what is your opinion on the Capital One Venture Card, the one with no annual fee?
So there's actually 3 ventures, if you will, which is a little bit confusing, but just to quickly go through them. So the Capital One Venture X is the premium one. So that's a relatively new card, $395 a year fee, gets you into the airport lounge, has a lot of great travel perks. Sounds like you're probably not as interested in that one.
The airport lounge being Capital One, which is building out some of its own airport lounges.
Those, and then also the Priority Pass lounges,
yeah, right. Okay.
which is pretty common on some other cards too. But you're right, they have some of their own lounges now, which is also a growing trend. Chase is doing that too. The classic Venture card has a $95 a year fee. And then there's also one called the Venture One, which does not have an annual fee. You're going to earn a lot fewer points or miles there. I actually think of the 3, the Venture probably has the most mass appeal because that one has a $95 a year annual fee, but you're going to earn 2 miles on every dollar you spend. And then even if you choose not to go the complex route and transfer to their partners, you're still getting basically 2% in value for any travel. I used to have this card and I actually redeemed rewards once for a monthly commuter train ticket. And it was basically like getting a 2% kind of valuation on everything you buy. The Venture One, the no annual fee one, you only get 1.25 points per dollar. So I think that's a much smaller valuation. I think in that case, if you don't want an annual fee, there's better cards. Like you could get 2% cash back with the Citi Double Cash or the Wells Fargo Active Cash. I think the appeal of the Capital One Venture, that mid-tier annual fee option, is both the more premium travel perks like the transfer partners, the global entry or TSA pre-check waiver, and the fact that that's actually a solid rate that you could redeem on almost any travel. I think that's the main selling point there.
This man knows his credit cards. I tell you, I just want to footnote, you mentioned if you don't want to go through the complicated transference process, it's really not that complicated. You can almost go on any website for your credit card and say, I want to transfer X amount of my points or miles over to here. And it's often instantaneous within seconds. So even I am not technically adept. Is that the technology friendly? What I'm trying to say is I'm not usually good at doing any of that stuff, and even I can do it. I know I want to let you go, but Karen had one last thing. She said, "Oh, this is a big question, Karen. If you don't have any type of American Express card, what do you recommend?" I think that really depends on what you do in life. Would that be a general answer, Ted? Do you want to take a stab at that real briefly? Because I know you got to go.
When it comes to credit cards, there's a lot of fish in the sea. I mean, there are literally thousands of options. When it comes to American Express, I think there's a myth out there that they're not accepted as widely. At least in the US, they've basically achieved parity with Visa and Mastercard. So I wouldn't shy away from Amex for that reason. Now, internationally, it depends on the country, but Visa and Mastercard are generally accepted more in other parts of the world. But even if this would be your first Amex card, I think it could be well worth it. But all these things are individual. Like that's a card that I use a lot, but for somebody else, it may be something totally different. A trend I'm seeing in the credit card world that relates to this is the choose your own adventure kind of idea. Citi has a card called the Custom Cash, which does exactly that. It customizes your rewards. They give you 5% cash back in your top spending category every month, whatever it is. There's no annual fee on this card. Groceries is one of the options. But what's nice about that card is it could change every month. So like 1 month it may be groceries, that's 5% cash back. Maybe next month it's travel. That card, it does cap the 5% at $500 a year. So that too works out to the same $6,000 a year cap as that Blue Cash Preferred, although it's divvied up a little differently. But I think that's another key point connected to sort of know thyself is think about some of those cards that can keep your options open.
Here's what I say to Karens, and correct me if I'm wrong. Go to American Express's website. You will their credit cards. You will see a multitude of different colored cards at different price points when it comes to annual fees, and just look at all the perks that each card offers and see which card, Karen, matches your lifestyle, your travel style. What you eat a lot of restaurants, maybe you want the gold card because it gives you, I think, 3 points for restaurants, which the other ones don't. If you don't eat
4, actually, that's a really good one. 4 points per dollar on groceries and restaurants. Yeah, Amex Gold is good for foodies.
So just go to American Express. They advertise it as, they shout it out. They'll show you under each card what the benefits are and see what matches your lifestyle. Is that general good advice? Because there's so many American Express cards, we could do another hour on those alone. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is a complex market. But yeah, think through some of those guideposts would be like, how do you spend most of your money? And what do you want to get out of your rewards? I think those would be some key questions.
Ted, great. Thanks for being so generous with your time. I appreciate it. Thank you all who are watching live. Remember, if you just tuned in at the end, this is posted forever on Facebook at Rudy Maxa's World and at Rudy Maxa's World on whatever the YouTube thing. So be up there forever. You can go back and reference if you missed some of the earlier conversations. Ted's giving you gold here, giving you gold. Thanks so much, Ted.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rudy.
Take care. And everybody else, travel safely. Bye-bye.